Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Blind Press YouTube channel, and it's Saturday night, so you guys know what that means. It's another Star Trek stream, and I've got Skep Talk and the One Ton Hammer with me right now, and Polydub is actually here, and he's going to be joining us on Polydub time. But he did say he would be coming, so it is the triumphant return of Polydub. And tonight we are talking about the episodes The Killing Game, which is episodes 18 and 19 of season 4 of Voyager. A quick brief synopsis is the crew encounter a species known as the Hirogen, which are a hunting species, and they discover that Voyager has a holodeck. So they basically use the holodeck and the crew of Voyager as a hunt. And the episodes focus around Voyager's crew becoming or trying to, thwart their enemy, their predators. So Hammer actually told me just before we started that this is actually his least favorite episode, I believe, is what you said, Hammer.
Yeah, I'm very much a purist when it comes to Star Trek. Whenever they get off of the main thrust of the show, when they start doing time travel stuff where they go back in time and they have to assimilate, interesting word, into that time frame and that kind of stuff, and put me on the bridge, give me some phasers. That's Star Trek.
I can see that. I can see where you could not like that. Did you like the parts where they did switch back to the bridge with the remaining skeleton crew, where they had to rely on Harry Kim, which I know you don't really like Harry, but did you at least like those parts where they were?
Yeah, it seemed a little poorly acted and or written. There's a lot of desperation in their faces, but it didn't really feel very real to me. But maybe I was too distracted by the rest of the show because it was 90% in the holodeck, with glamour shots. Had a hard time with that. Couldn't adjust.
Maybe it's because I can't see all of that stuff that I liked the episode more.
Oh, maybe. What do you think, Skep?
I actually liked it.
You did? I thought you might.
Yeah, I thought it was, I thought stuff about World War II, I think, is cool, and I was kind of interested to see how well they would bring that off. And it was, very different kind of an episode. Normally, I think I tend to have some of the same reservations that Hammer does. I remember on the original series, they would end up in on some place that they were had to be like mobsters or part of the Gestapo or whatever it happened to be. And I was sort of expecting that, but I thought this was extremely well done. I thought they did a very good job.
I don't like Janeway as a Klingon now.
No.
She's not a good Klingon.
Yeah, most of my objections had to do with Janeway.
Yeah, this wasn't her best. This wasn't her best set of episodes, for sure.
Someone shoots you in the thigh with an M1, you will not be able to walk. I don't care where it hits you in the thigh. Don't care. That bullet is made to take a man down. And it will take you down.
I do think that the biggest problem about these episodes was Janeway, because she's too, it made sense for her to be the leader of the Resistance, right? But it didn't make sense that she would be a nightclub owner. Hey, Polydub.
Hello.
We're just giving our initial thoughts on The Killing Game. Hammer said it's one of his actually least favorite two-parters. Skep said he liked it, and I was just saying that I really like it, except for it was hard for me to picture Janeway as a nightclub owner, a French nightclub owner. I didn't picture her as the cabaret type.
Okay, did Hammer actually say that?
Hammer?
Yeah, I did.
Did you?
I didn't really like that two-parter. Of all the two-parters, I think this is probably the worst.
Oh, really? Even
Of
beating
all
out
the-
Animatrix Zero and Basics?
Yeah, no kidding. Basics? You thought this was... So do you mean of Voyager or do you mean of all of Trek?
Just Voyager. We're only on Voyager.
Okay. Yeah, Basics was pretty fucking bad. And what's the one with I'm trying to remember the name. Future's Past, the one with
Future's
Sarah Silverman?
End.
Future's End. Core idea, very interesting, poorly executed. But we're talking about Killing Game.
Killing
right
Game,
now.
yeah.
I love it. It's a favorite of mine. And then Hammer and I, and then of course Skep and yourself, we've talked about the idea of the distinction between your favorites and the best. That that sometimes they're the same thing, but definitely not always. I would not try and argue this is the best. I'm simply arguing it's one of my favorites. Do you know what I mean? I like it because, like, as I said to you, Blind, that it's Casablanca in space.
It really is.
She's so supposed to be Rick Blaine, like Humphrey Bogart's character from Casablanca.
The
French
always have the holodeck.
Nice. The French resistance, the whole thing that she's trying to remain outside of the war. I only have one rule: don't keep the war outside, etc. So Rick. I agree with you that she doesn't make a good cabaret owner, but that's part of the fun of the episode in my mind. They're forced to play out these roles because I don't see Seven of Nine as a French resistance fighter, and I don't see Neelix as a Klingon, and that's the fun of it. Like, it's
No, I honestly, he made a good Klingon when he had the neural interface on. That was He was actually a pretty funny Klingon.
Yeah, he really was. Like, if there's any role that I would want to play, like in Trek myself, would be a drunk Klingon.
Yeah. I'm as dry as the deserts in Safat when it's dry in the dry season.
I know, it was so funny. He goes, "You will prove your warriorness by drinking this." Like, it just, drunk Klingons are the best.
when he says, these are Klingons, not kittens.
Yeah.
Pulls the meat out of his hand and throws him to the fire. You will listen to me.
Yes.
And the doctor's interaction, like with the quote unquote Klingons, it was that was just a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah, that made me laugh.
Tally ho.
One thing that I just didn't want to have a senior moment and forget to bring this up. Did anybody notice what the name of the cabaret was?
I did not, actually. I don't remember.
The Coeur de Lion.
Okay.
And,
what is that?
And Richard Coeur de Lion, Richard I of England, was also the Duke of Normandy. And it's pretty evident that that part of France that they were talking about was near the invasion point because they were within 1 day of the invasion, right? You can deduce that from the fact that the invasion had not happened, and then within 1 day, the guys are there. So that almost has to be Normandy or maybe southern Brittany, but it's in that area.
It said St. Clair, France, and I'm not sure if they actually used a real town. I didn't think to look that up, but I just figured that based on that, it had to be on the Normandy coast. And Richard Coeur de Lion, Richard I of England, when he was the Duke of Normandy, when England owned that part of France, they referred to him as Coeur de Lion. And I was thinking, man, is that really sly? Is that super sly, or is that just happened to? That's actually, I wouldn't be surprised if that was on purpose. So, knowing the nods that Star Trek makes to things like that.
Yeah, because see, what is the Star Trek where they have the reference to Eleanor of Aquitaine?
Oh, I
Senior
think I
time.
know what you're talking
Damn
about.
it.
You got me on this one. I have no idea.
Well, anyways, Eleanor of Aquitaine was Richard's mom. Just an interesting thing. I just wonder if there's a, an Angevin historian or somebody, or Angevin, like I am, amateur historian, in amongst the writers who was kind of throwing those things in for the,
I know there's a couple episodes where they reference Sun Tzu in TNG.
Yeah, I honestly think that, like, because I'm a big fan of directors' commentaries and writers' commentaries on DVDs and such.
Yeah,
yes.
Hammer's had to listen to me talk about that a bunch of times, and it's you. I think writers do that a hell of a lot. It's like they're storehouses of useless information. If you know what, and I don't mean that insultingly. They are.
They just have trivia stored.
Right, because they're interested in lots of different things, and directors will end up sticking in. They're not Easter eggs; they're just them being themselves, nerds, like, of stuff that they'll stick in. If you ever watch
background type stuff,
like if you ever watch, like, it's off topic, but just to make a point that kind of like solidifies, like, I would not doubt that any of those connections are intentional, because, like, if you ever watch True Detective, Nick Palazzo, the writer and showrunner of it, that show is just rife with them, like, stuff that's so obscure. That's got nothing to do with nothing. Like, you know what I mean? He just stuck it in because he could, and he's eccentric like that, so that's how writers are, So I would totally believe that was intentional with Normandy.
What did you guys think about the lead Hirogen, who is obviously a member of quite a, I don't want to call them a dumb species, because they're not. They're highly intelligent. They've managed to survive for millennia being a hunter race, but he's clearly a deeper thinker than the rest of his crew.
He's the guy who plays Worf's brother, right? Same actor?
Is he?
The guy who played, I'm sorry?
Kern.
Worf's brother? Kern. Same actor, right?
No.
I don't think so.
No, but he, the actor who played Worf's brother, the guy who played Candyman,
right.
He did play a Hirogen. That was the Hirogen that was trying to kill the species 8472 alien.
Oh, okay.
Yes, he did.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
His voice is so particular; it just gives him away. You
can't recognize that voice. Just like one of the in Sunkatsi, the Sunkatsi episode, the Hirogen that Seven of Nine trains with is General Martok, I think.
Right. Yeah. And that is, by the way, you happen to have named the worst episode of Voyager, in my opinion.
What, Sunkatsi?
Yeah, it's just like it's got the fucking rock in it, for God's sake.
Yeah.
It's just it is the bottom of the list for me in terms of Voyager quality. But you were speaking about the lead Hirogen. I mean, this episode does for the Hirogen what Sins of the Father does from TNG does for the Klingons. It's so lore expanding for them.
Yes, I would agree.
Because you have these, you always get these questions, and they're justifiable about, like, the Klingons, all they do is warrior, right? And it's like, how did they ever get to the point when they build ships, like, and warp technology and stuff? Wouldn't they just be always like knife fighting and stuff? And it's like, no, it's because it's part of a culture, and it's actually a religion to them, and only under specific circumstances is this going to happen, and so on. And then they become like the noble savages in a very orderly way. And the Hirogen become, I like the lines that he said, our culture is dissipating. We're too spread out. We're not even doing anything but the hunt anymore. And I think that was a valuable inclusion to make the Hirogen seem more, quote, real, if that makes sense, to make more sense.
You just articulated almost every single feeling much better than I could have said it, Molly. That's exactly the way I felt. I was thinking, these guys have this civilization, and it's dissipating because all they have left is the hunt.
Yeah.
And I actually, and it's a great idea when you take a character that is supposed to be the embodiment of evil and add shades to it. And he's like, we still want to hunt. It's who we are, but we can do it in this way and come back together. And he's got this plan, and they're not just murder. You know, it's
a whole nother dimension, and it makes the whole thing more interesting. It really
I like how much feeling, like the actor who played him was really good. Like when Janeway's like, I know what this is, your sick little game. And he's like, this is not a game. Like he
lost it. Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
By the way, I have a report on St. Clair in France.
Oh, yeah?
It's a little tiny town on the Bordeaux coast, just a little bit south of Calais. Definitely could have been it.
Nice.
Well, there you go.
So, Hammer, I'm curious. Did you not enjoy the not extensive, but rather liberal use of I'm sorry, the actress who plays 7 to 9, her name's slipped my mind.
Jerry Ryan.
Jerry Ryan. Did you not like the extended use of her natural voice talents in this two-parter?
Which I love.
There were some small things I liked, but I understand why you like this. This is kind of you and Skep talk. There's a lot of elements in this two-parter that are enticing to you. Skep talk the military side, and you're very much into the Casablanca side. So I can see how this.
Firing M1s that don't have magazines in them.
No, you're quite right. There's a lot of things that are of a particular appeal. The espionage, the intrigue, the romanticized version of World War II. Yeah, those are all of particular appeal to me. Yeah,
me too.
So,
for me, whenever you move out of Trek's home base, I start to lose interest. It's like a good example in TNG would be like A Fistful of Datas, which spent a lot of its time in the Wild West.
I remember
that episode
at the time, the Ancient West.
The Ancient West. That's right.
I couldn't get into any of that, and even with the movie First Contact, when they're talking with the guy who invented warp drive. What the hell is his name? Zefram Cochrane. And they're on Earth and walking around and building and fixing and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, okay, can we get back into space and fire some phasers now? Because this is stupid.
Right.
So that's probably the biggest problem I have with this. Once you get past that, then all the other little things about it, don't really bother me as much.
Fleet Admiral says Painway, meaning Janeway, broke far more rules than any captain in the Federation. No. I would say not.
Probably Picard is more of a rule breaker.
Kirk is the trope answer, right? That Kirk never.
They didn't have any rules,
but they didn't have the prime directive. He was the reason.
No, they did. No. They did.
Kirk had a prime directive. What are you saying?
Yes,
Kirk had a prime directive.
Of course he did.
Well, they were probably the reason the prime directive got so extensively amended, and probably the fact that there is now a temporal prime directive is Picard's fault.
That's how come that Spock was on trial and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was very much cowboy diplomacy, though.
Oh yeah, no. It's like he had a prime directive, he just didn't care. Like, or would justify it, or would justify it in the weakest way possible. You know what I mean? Like he would go. It's the what was the episode where they went down to the planet and they were all feeding Vol?
Omega Glory. Oh no, that was a different one. I was thinking you were going to say Omega Glory when he says. We didn't change them. We just showed them what they were fighting for.
Right. But that's a great example of what I'm talking about. Like just off the top of his head, justification that doesn't hold an ounce of water, but who cares? He's Kirk. I'm going to swashbuckle my way out of this.
Mega Glory, I could probably have gotten that because of who they were. They're basically the Yanks and the communists. So kind of, that was his best speech. That entire episode was probably one of the tops.
When he reads the Constitution, it's excellent.
He pleb nista. I mean, come on.
That's great. These words, written tall and proud, said many times before, but never quite in this way. I can't do the Shatner.
We the people.
Yeah.
the people.
Do you understand?
There's more bad Shatner on this stream than you can shake a stick at.
Yeah, I don't even
And we'll
try.
keep going.
I don't either. I didn't keep my mouth shut too, Polly.
It's because people don't do Shatner; they do people's impression of Shatner.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like
This is an impression of a guy in a bar doing Shatner.
right, and it's like Ed denies the fact that the guy has some incredibly dramatic moments with his Shatnerism. You Klingon bastard, you killed my son is heartbreaking.
Yeah,
It is. You believe
But but getting back to the idea here is that even the drumhead, I think Admiral Satie says you broke the prime directive 11 times or something like that.
And
It kind of stuck in my mind.
And that's only season 4.
Yeah, it was 9 times. It's like I have to say, it shocked the hell out of me. Like, ouch.
And Picard's just like, yeah, and I put them all in my report.
Yeah.
Like he's just like, yeah, I did break them.
And then she goes full Robert Mueller on him with, yes, we're looking into those reports very closely into those reports.
Yeah. But no, I have to disagree with you, Fleet Admiral. I don't think Janeway is the biggest rule breaker. In fact, she
broke. He says rules. He didn't say prime directive.
Well,
but that's the same difference.
Can I say something about Janeway's role and the discretion she's going to have as captain? Somebody in space that's exploring places that are just incredibly far apart. She's going to be essentially on her own, out of touch from everybody. It's much more like being a sea captain in the 19th century than it is being a sea captain in the 21st century.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
those guys were on their own. They were the law. They were the man. They resolved everything right there. And that's very much Janeway's role. She doesn't go back to, her boss, commander of 7th Fleet, and say, hey, I've got this problem. What do you think I ought to do about it? Well, we'll get with our legal people and get back to you in 6 hours. That's the way things happen now. Jimmy Carter made sure of that. But back in the 19th century, it was like, no, take him out and hang him. Kill Hall the bastard,
But it's a matter of
kill Hall in the morning.
There's evidence, like in canon, that Janeway has thought this through and thought out how she's going to have a workaround with it. In the episode, oh crap, I can't remember the name of it right now. I'm sure Blind remembers. Where it's in Voyager. They enter an area of space that is expansive. They have to pass through it. They have very draconian laws with telepaths, and they're hiding some telepaths, including their Vulcans on board. Counterpoint. Thank you, because of the music, right? Counterpoint. And she, the excellent actor who plays her foil in that episode. I thought
I can't remember his name, but he was great.
I thought he did such a great job. Like the two of them bouncing off each other was fantastic. And he said, I've noticed, and of course I've read through your records, Captain, and I see the prime directive and you violate it. Aren't you concerned, that sort of thing? And she said, well, I'll deal with that when I get back. And I'm on a first name with most of those admirals, remember?
Yeah.
And it's like,
I'd rather face the music at home.
Yeah, it's she knows. It's like, look, I have a lot of contacts. I have a lot of friends. I'm going to be able to explain my way out of almost every single thing that I've done.
Yeah,
and I love when
the fact that I brought my crew home.
Yeah,
is going to outweigh anything that I could have done wrong.
And she more or less lies to Captain Ransom in the Equinox 2-parter, which I'm really looking forward to talking about, so I won't get too far into it here. But Ransom says to her, can I ask you a question, Captain? Captain, have you ever violated the Prime Directive or broke the Prime Directive? She goes, broke it? Come up against it and bent it on occasion. It's like, oh, shut up, Janeway. Just say you broke it. You know you did. Why are you believing this guy to feel so bad?
I think Janeway played the percentages pretty well when it comes right down to it, because she had so many opportunities to play it fast and loose. The number of times that she ended up actually breaking the Prime Directive compared to the number of chances she had to break the Prime Directive.
Right.
Picard never had 300 chances.
That's a good point.
She, by existing where she was,
he did have.
Yeah, he did take a big percentage, but if he had 300 more chances, how many more would he have broken? She's said many times that we're going to uphold the principles of Starfleet out here.
Yeah.
She didn't have to do any of that.
Well, there's even an episode where it's in season 1. It's shit. What's it called? It's on the tip of my tongue. It's the 10th episode. It's anyway.
Where they go to the planet where they're obsessed with new things and they have the leaping technology.
Pleasure, yeah.
Yeah, I forget the name of it, but yeah, I know the episode you mean.
And she's and they won't give them the technology, and she's like, "So this is how it feels like. This is what it feels like."
Right.
Yeah, but and everyone's like, "What are you talking about?" And she's like, "Well, this is how it feels when we are on the denial end of the denial of sharing technology. How many times have we had to tell species that we can't share our technology? Now we know how it feels."
Jesse the Fennec Fox makes an interesting point that's arguable whether it's right or not. Janeway was like a boss compared to Picard. I think Janeway catches too much hell out there in Trekdom.
Yeah.
I understand that, okay, she's not your favorite captain, but I don't think she deserves the hell that she gets. And
why does she get it? Why does she get it? Why does she catch that hell?
I think honestly, my guess is that the first season she is such a Mary Sue for Jerry. What's the writer's name? The co-creator of Voyager, Jerry. Damn it! Her name's at the beginning of every episode.
You're gonna love old age.
My ex-girlfriend said it's going to be a very easy ride into senility for me.
I don't actually understand what Jesse's saying in that statement. Jamie was like a boss compared to Picard.
I took it to be like boss, like she was hardcore.
She was command like awesome?
Yeah, that's the way I took it. Maybe she meant like literally more in command, but I took it to mean like, because I don't know. You think about Picard in A Year from Hell. What would he have done? You think about, the most commanding, in my opinion, of them all, Sisko. I think he had the strongest command presence of all of them. That guy just looked like and talked like he should be in charge.
I know this is
really.
I know this is.
I think so.
To do with this episode, but Polly, I want to, since we're on this tangent, it makes sense. What do you think Picard would have done in Scorpion? Think he would have made that deal?
Yes, I do. Just really? Like off the top of my head, yep. Because he's the diplomat, he's the negotiator, and Picard is a realist. He's not a power politique guy, but he is a realist nonetheless. I think he would have made the deal.
Despite having been Locutus, you think he would have made the deal?
Picard's a self-sacrificer, so I would say yes. I don't think, like, if you're asking, would it have been out of character for him to have done it? No. I think with the proper writing, it would have worked. I think Janeway was a little quick to run towards it personally, like run towards the deal and not listening to Chakotay, who had some very reasonable things to say regarding the deal.
I don't think. I think that they did it the wrong way. They made him too tropey. They made him too Native American-y about it. I think that had he said the Borg are just going to assimilate us after the deal is over anyway, that would have been a better argument than that whole Scorpion story. That was, I mean, I know that they kind of set it up so that Janeway could tell Chakotay Scorpion later.
Right.
But that was a just annoying way of.
I hear you. I know what you mean.
I always felt that Picard was a good diplomat. And a good tactician, because he was always thinking 2 or 3 moves ahead of his competition.
True.
It always seemed to me like he had an ace in the pocket in any circumstance he ran into. Very rarely, only the one time when they lost a Vulcan who was actually a Romulan, did he get in a position where he got screwed. That's the only one I can ever think of, because when he went up against the Romulans, he says, Mr. Worf, tell the other Klingons to decloak. So you want to fight? Okay, now let's fight. He was always thinking, extra moves ahead of whoever he's going to face. Like, okay, they're gonna decloak. They're probably going to be more than one. So I'm going to make sure we have more than one too. I'm going to make sure we have 4. So when they decloak, we're going to decloak, and then I'm going to have them. He always seemed like he had that in the back of his head whenever he went into any situation. So
yeah, he was definitely more of a chess player than Janeway, because there are so many times you see Janeway have to think on her feet.
Or just hope it works. Very much like Kirk.
Because
we're gonna fly between these two proto stars, and if it rips the ship apart, who gives a shit?
Yeah,
I'm gonna do it anyway. You know.
And I hope you weren't lying about those odds, Tuvok. Yeah, I wasn't, but okay.
It's okay. You raise an interesting point, Hammer. So you got Picard, right? And he's a negotiator, and you know, when he's stuck, and that's the only one you can think of.
Yeah, he's a thinker.
Are there any other situations where he wasn't in the safety, if you will, of the Alpha Quadrant? Because there's a relative safety. He doesn't have too far to go to get out of the neutral zone, right?
Only once I remember him being out of the Alpha Quadrant. I mean, that one time with the Traveler, when they first traveled to a place wherever you thought could come true.
Oh yeah.
Oh well, of course. There's Q. There's Q.
He was definitely out.
Where Q snaps his fingers and takes him to meet the Borg.
Yeah. Yeah.
But are they out of the Alpha Quadrant? They didn't specify.
I thought they went to the Beta.
They didn't.
No, they went to the Delta Quadrant.
Did they?
When you snapped his fingers, they went to the Delta Quadrant. Yeah, because we're
the Borg. Went 7,000 light years.
But in canon, the Borg are in the Beta Quadrant, because in Unimatrix Zero, that's where Seven of Nine's lover is on. He's on a sphere in the Beta Quadrant.
Well, the Borg ship has visited just about everywhere.
True. With their home base, damn transwarp conduits, bastards.
Right, but their home base is in the Delta Quadrant. So I figured if you're going to make the Enterprise, face the Borg, you're going to go to where most of the Borg are.
But would Q? I mean, Q's an asshole, but do you think Q would be dumb enough to put the flagship of the Federation in Borg home base?
Why? He could just snap his fingers and take it right back out again. No big deal to him.
No, it's no big deal to him, but
that's what he does. He snaps it in their back. I'm surprised that the Enterprise ever moved. That's the only thing about that whole thing where Q snaps his fingers. Q doesn't have to move his ship.
No.
He snaps his fingers and he's in one place and then he's in another place. And he could do it with a ship. He could do it with people. Why was the Enterprise actually moving at the end of that? It didn't make sense to me.
You mean like, I'm sorry, do you mean like bring a cube to them, or you mean like actually like as it was swirling through space move?
When he snapped his fingers, there was a flash and the Enterprise took off.
Right.
It moved at higher than warp speeds, slipstream, whatever above that.
Right.
Why?
Maybe to show the audience how far they were going.
Yeah, I think it was a visual cue.
Or why would
no pun intended.
Yeah. Why would you put him in the Delta Quadrant and then have to wait for the Borg to show up? Why not put him right in front of a cube?
That's what I was about to answer, because I think that was on purpose, because they're trying to connect it to the previous episode with the Romulans at the end of season 1, where their bases along the neutral zone had been destroyed and scooped right off the planet, and they didn't know why. And they were hinting that it was the Borg to come, because Data, when he's scanning the planet where Q takes them to, and Q who says, the planet beneath us, we're scanning it, and it has damage identical to the damage that occurred to our bases along the neutral zone, meaning it's the same thing. And Q then says to them when he appears in the conference room, are you going to turn around?
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like how afraid are you? Because that was the whole point. Picard said, I don't know if we're ready to beat everything out here, but I know we're ready to encounter it. Absolutely. That's why we're out here. And Picard's like, oh, yeah.
He's like, oh, really?
Yeah. It's like, let's see if I can scare you.
That was a mistake. He should know Q well enough at that point not to issue that kind of challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you think, so going back to this, what do you think about, because they kind of gave Harry an important role in these episodes.
Yeah, he's the only one left, him and the Doctor, the only one's not in the deck, right? Yeah, good call.
And
even the Hiroja didn't want to deal with him.
Well, and he actually stood up to the hurt. Like, I think this is an episode where you see an arc for Harry. whether you like him or not, because he has to stand up and kind of actually have some stones against a race of people that are not softies.
Right.
And he's got to, sneak around and work with Doc without being noticed when he's being basically forced to work under guard.
Uh-huh.
And not only that, but when he gets questioned, Green Ensign Kim manages to stand up and challenge them more than once.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool to see. Like there's a couple of things, a couple of scenes. One is where the guard stops him and he's like, "You're going to show me what you've been doing." And he's like, "Okay, fine, but you're going to call your superior and tell him why I'm going to be late to the bridge. Here." And he hands him his comm badge. He goes, Here, you tell your superior why I'm going to be late." And it was like, yeah, Harry. And then
Harry.
At the end of episode 1 of this two-parter, when the holodeck basically explodes, and the holographic soldiers come piling out, and the guy's like, "Fix it," and he's like, "I can't, and I wouldn't." And the guy's like, "I will kill you if you don't." He's like, "Go to hell. You wanted a war, you got one."
Right. Yeah.
and I'm like, go Harry. Like, whether you like Harry or not, that was
what you wanted a war. That reminds me, some of the things that I kind of got like mild little laughs out of, but they were enjoyable, was trying to explain to people in the 1940s mindset what's going on today. It's like it's some kind of advanced weapons lab, like, Janeway's
when
like,
Chakotay would know exactly what it was if he went, like, if that neural transmitter was not there, he would be like, "Oh, look, it's the armory."
Right? It's the little things like, and Janeway leaves Chakotay, like 1940s Chakotay, with the Klingons. It's like, I'm gonna warn you, there's some eccentric people that live in these caves.
Yeah. And then he hears Klingon and he's like, "That's not like any French I've ever heard."
Right. So what did you guys think of Chakotay and Paris as 40s American soldiers?
I liked Paris better when he didn't have the neural transceiver in and he was still play acting.
I thought they were pretty weak, personally. Like, it was funny because, again, that's what I enjoyed, is that all of these people who are not these things and don't play them well being forced to play them, and it's funny. That's It's like, so what was the Mademoiselle's name with all of like the forced lingo of the time? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or what was it? Even before the neural transceiver is removed, or Seven's like, I'm sick, or I needed some water or something. Or no, just before when the guy's like, "Sing for me," and she's like, "No, we're done for the night," right?
Right.
And he's like, "Sing," and she's like, he takes her, she said, "Remove your hand from my arm."
I loved it when because the Hirogen were breaking character too, right? He's like, "Sing or your skull will adorn the walls of my
bulkhead of my ship."
Yeah. And the lead Hirogen's like, "Play the game."
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool.
I liked that. Yeah.
There was a bunch of interesting points where like after 7 of 9 had her neural transceiver cut off, that Janeway still thinks that she's, because Janeway still is in the simulation, and she thinks that she's a traitor now, and 7 of 9 is unknowingly playing into her suspicions by not knowing what the hell she's supposed to be doing. Like, I thought that was great tension. That was fun.
It was. And my favorite part of that, I don't know about what you guys think, but my favorite part is when it first cuts out because she's in the middle of singing.
Right.
And then she's like, I must discontinue this activity.
Right.
I'm not well.
I forgot about that line. Discontinue this activity. So let's talk about the thing I wanted to bring up, because it's, in current year, it matters in a way where it totally wouldn't have before.
Yeah.
What did you think of the Nazi speech about the purity of the Aryan race?
Oh I want to hear what Skep has to think about that. What did you think about that?
It's
speech?
pretty much off the shelf stuff. I thought that was actually pretty cornball, and was hokey as hell. To be quite honest, to
actor
hear that come out of it.
had...
Yeah, he didn't deliver it well, in my opinion.
He didn't.
To me, I don't know if it was delivered. It's one of those things where it's like, I often complain with TV shows and movies and stuff. It's like, you didn't need to be that on the nose. I would have got it, like, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I almost think that it was played a little too subtle. The speech was for the Herodian officer. It changes his mind.
Yeah.
Because he's not thinking about Aryans and blah, blah, blah. He's thinking about the Herodian, like, we must be true to ourselves, the Nazis saying. And he's thinking we must be true to ourselves as hunters. That's what he's hearing. And it's like, I don't know, like the camera angle is what gives it away, because it keeps showing the Herodian officer as he's, showing that the wheels are turning inside his head while he's thinking, right? I don't know if it was clear enough, because it just seems like a, classic SS dyed in the wool National Socialist saying the things,
I kind of agree with you in that sense, because if it, like, I'm kind of glad that I have the imagination I did, because you just confirmed what I had been imagining, that the camera was more on the Herodian officer.
Okay, yeah, it's not enough on the Herodian officer, in my opinion. It's like, so you imagine that it would be on him, probably more than it actually
is.
was.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, that's what I mean when I say it was. I often complain that it's too, that's not even subtle. That's as subtle as a brick through a plate glass window. This was, I think, even too subtle. It should have been a little bit more obvious that he was hearing the call of his people in his blood. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I have to be me, and this game isn't us. It's time to take the prey, as he kept saying.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What did you guys think of Baker Neelix before he became a Klingon?
He's more of a delivery boy than he was a baker. But
yeah. Did anyone else cry about?
I said, nice bicycle, Neelix.
Yeah.
Did anyone else cry over that brandy that was dumped out onto the fucking ground?
Yeah. Well, it was.
Oh my god.
The bottle of wine, and it was wine, yeah. And it was, I love that the Herodian officer at one point, like, he cracks a baguette in half and looks inside of it.
Yeah. Yes. That was funny. I thought he's going to look inside that piece of bread. And sure enough, he did exactly what I thought he was going to do.
And honestly, it's like, I thought, that's so stupid. I'm like, well, actually, you probably could hide all kinds of things inside of baked goods, couldn't you?
Yes, you could.
It absolutely was done. It absolutely was done.
You could roll up a map and put it in a baguette. Like, why not? That's
they sent Red Cross items to the men who were in German prison camps. They sent them Monopoly games, and on certain Monopoly games, if there was a little print defect on the front of the board, that meant there was a map in it, and they slit the map, the board open, and they could slide out the map. But it was actually manufactured into the board.
Wow.
It's a true story. You Google that and check it out. That's absolutely true.
I did like the moment where Chakotay got a little hardcore with them, and it's like, the time for passing messages back and forth is over. You guys sit tight. It's like,
right. Yeah.
The guys with the guns and tanks are here now. Chill. It's
yeah. And I could have just imagined some American person saying that.
Right.
Like, for real. 70 years ago, 80 years ago. Just like, okay, Viva la resistance. Yes, yes. But now it's time for us to take over.
I mean, were there other examples of their actual, if you will, personalities coming through in the game, like where Neelix says to Tuvok, like in their guises there, right? It's like, yes, I agree with you, but you have to be so logical about it.
Yeah.
And he's like, logic is a powerful tool in any war, Mr. Neelix. I suggest you try it. Like, you know, it's like that's their repartee on the ship. And they're kind of, and it's like, I don't think that there were, like, you know, you didn't see Janeway being, well, she was in command. Yeah. Like of their little resistance cell.
You saw B'Elanna being the one that's like fucking with the radio.
Right. She was the engineer.
Doing the codes.
Yeah. Okay.
Rigging up the parts with Janeway.
I did. Speaking of B'Elanna, I did like that line when the transceivers were now cut off, right? So they're all themselves. And she's laying on the ground like they're all hostages or captives. And she's like, oof, because of her pregnancy.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just a simulation. It's a very good simulation. Like, yeah. That's a funny idea that it's projecting like you know, 5-pound baby onto you. Yeah. Like, and weighing you down accordingly.
That was very interesting to me. I thought that was really cool, actually.
Yeah.
I found I like the again when they're all themselves and they're being held hostage and the guy goes to 7 and he's like, sing, and she's like, no, and he's like, sing or die, and she's like, then I'll die. Tuvok's like, we kind of need you.
So one thing that I wasn't aware of, because I wanted to watch this two-parter again before we streamed tonight, but I didn't get a chance to. But I remember it pretty well because I've watched it a number of times.
Yeah.
But I forget, where did the neural transceivers come from? Was the Doctor forced to create them?
Yes.
Okay. Because I mean that's really the whole thing, isn't it? Like that's like the Trek tech MacGuffin in this, because it makes the whole thing happen. Without those neural transceivers, the story is just like falls apart.
I think the Hirogen had like 1 or 2. I think that was their technology.
Okay.
But I don't think they had the ability to like reproduce them en masse.
Right.
So I think.
So the Doctor didn't create them.
No, but he was responsible for the replication and implantation of them. He was forced.
One thing I did like about the story is that the story, the as it's portrayed to the audience, the story starts in the middle. I loved that. You don't see the Hirogen take over the ship because you don't need to. Like that's just good thinking on behalf of the writers. You find it out through, like, you're asking yourself as the audience member, what the hell's going on? And you find out through little bits of exposition as the story unfolds. And I love that.
Yeah, especially because the episode before this two-parter had nothing to do with the Hirogen.
Right.
Last thing we saw of them, they were pissed off because they weren't allowed to have the 8472.
Yeah.
And then you go into a totally different episode about a whole totally different thing. And then the next thing you know, Janeway's a Klingon.
Yeah, and that's how it starts, right? The pre-credit roll is Klingon Janeway, and you're like, what the fuck? Yeah, it's just like Metaphors just said, dropped into the middle of Act 2. Exactly, and it really works. Why not? And
although I don't think she was a very good Klingon, but
she was the worst Klingon. I was surprised what a great drunken Klingon Neelix made.
Yes.
He was so that's one of my one of the best pieces of humor in Voyager right there. It's
especially when the only other things he's played are Neelix and a Ferengi, and then you get to see him be like a drunk Klingon, and he actually does a pretty good job.
And you're thinking of him as the Ferengi from Enterprise, right?
From TNG, yeah.
No, he was a Ferengi in Enterprise as well.
Okay, I haven't gotten that far yet. He plays in Menage a Troy. He plays
Oh,
the
right.
Ferengi doctor.
He's the doctor that wants to dissect their heads, right?
Yeah.
Right. I forgot about that. Yeah. Huh. And then, of course, Rom, as we know, was the Ferengi that fucked with Picard on Risa.
Mm-hmm.
So I doubt that was supposed to be Rom, though.
No, that was what the fuck was his name?
Who won?
Kozak? No.
Oh, that's something close to that. It's Captain's Holiday. There, that's the name of the episode.
Yeah.
It's because Vosh says it so many times.
Yeah. Kovac.
Kovac, is that right?
Kovac, I believe. It ends with an "ac." I know that.
Do you guys ever watch Red Letter Media at all?
No, but I follow her on Twitter.
One of the guys of Red Letter Media that make it up, they were doing a review of a different they do a series called Review, RE''VEIU Review.
Okay.
And they just flash. What's that?
Sovak is his name.
Sovak.
Right. Max Grotek is the actor.
They're doing a review of Star Trek: The Motion Picture, the film. Right?
Okay.
And before they roll their credit sequences, they're just opening beers. And the main guy of Red Letter Media actually owns a company, Mike Stacklasa. He's opening a beer and it overflows on him, and he's like, "Oh, god damn it!" And they're talking in like this foolish way, and they're outtakes basically that they're showing before it starts. And they're just like, "Yeah, this." Picard really liked his women, like Vosh, or as he called her, Gash. And I was like, "Oh God, that's so." She goes, "Yeah, she's really into fossils. That's why she likes Picard's penis so much." He guzzles the beer. I'm like, Jesus Christ, Mike.
That's awesome and also slightly disgusting at the same time.
You see him looking at the guy behind the camera, and you hear like the laughter coming from behind the camera, and he goes, "Oh, come on, man. Do you even get that joke?" Yeah, you'd have to. That's some really inside.
Their new stuff is a lot tamer than their original reviews, says Metaphorist.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, their original Star Wars and Trek reviews were a lot harsher, a lot saucier, definitely. Yeah. Because Mike Stacklasa really does not like any Trek film past 6, The Undiscovered Country. He thinks that they've really dropped in quality from that point on. So,
well, if you remove 5, then I'm kind of with him. Except I I hated Nemesis mostly because Data died. No.
You know what I think is the movie that catches hell and doesn't deserve it is Insurrection.
I know, it was great.
It's fine, and the criticism that people lay out at it is right. It's too small of a story for a feature film. It should have been a 2-parter, and it's like you make it sound like that means it's bad. It's not bad. It's got an interesting story. It's the classic evil admiral. Picard has a really sexy love interest in the form of what's her name? I forget. What was her name? Anish. She was great. The whole Insurrection. I'm a fan. I don't accept the criticisms of it.
Got Worf and Picard singing Gilbert and Sullivan in the beginning. It's fucking amazing.
Admittedly, it was like that. The story of what happened with Data was a rehash of 2 different TNG episodes where the duck blind went down on the planet, and Picard was recognized as the Picard, like their god. Like so that part, and then the part where Data,
Dino himself. The other one,
like he loses his memory and he's stuck with the primitives, and like so it was definitely a recycle of those 2 ideas, but whatever. I still liked Insurrection. People should calm down.
Insurrection was good.
Let's put it this way: Insurrection was a better film and more enjoyable than all of season 1 of Discovery. There.
Well, anything.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't feel as strongly about Insurrection as you do. I'm not a big fan of Donna Murphy. She looked old in that movie.
She was a beautiful older woman. What? She's
After comparing her to Vosh was a lot more vital, a lot more outwardly sexy. Donna Murphy kind of plays the little house in the prairie, the conservative, the shy, the quiet. That's her entire acting career. Vosh was like short skirts, and I liked the way she sat in the captain's chair, and it was just there's a little bit of you know, give me a little bit of a pass here, blind, but a little bit of come fuck me in her. That definitely was not. Donna Murphy plays very much that soft, gentle. What's the other thing that she's good at? Oh yeah, the hippie chick. She's a really good hippie chick. Look at all of her the stuff that she's been in. She plays the hippie chick a lot. So I didn't get that sexual attraction.
I don't know. I dug her as there's a lot of sexiness in demure, because when a woman who is demure generally has short breakouts from that, it all becomes subtextual sexy, like when she runs her fingers over his head and she said, "It's been several centuries since I've seen a bald man," and she gives him this really knowing look, and that was sexy as fuck.
I didn't get sexy from that at all. I felt like, why are you rubbing on my bald head and you pointing out I'm bald? Thanks for taking a shot at my masculinity by pointing out that I'm bald. I just didn't get it.
Rub my head. I'm fine with it.
I didn't get I didn't get the flirtation that we got from Bosch. I didn't get the doe wide and the batting of the eyes and the traditional approach.
She was intellectually more Picard's level than Vosh was.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt about it. I mean, Vosh was a criminal, basically, but
yeah, and it's like when you do see Vosh show up in the season 1 episode of DS9, when Vosh shows up on DS9, and
she really got old then. Holy mackerel.
Yeah, and O'Brien and Sisko are talking. He says she was a friend of Captain Picard. It's like, really? It seemed like she's his type. And he says, "Well, the captain likes a good challenge, sir." And that was a great line.
It was a great line. Yeah.
You see the appeal that Vosh represented for Picard. He does have an adventurous soul in him. He's just, yeah.
So yeah, the whole stretching the face. Yeah.
Queasy. Okay, you bring up the weak part. You're right. There's no way to defend that. It was gay.
Yeah.
Like J.E.
The battle scene in the clouds.
The Riker in the.
I wouldn't be surprised if they call this the Riker maneuver. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, please.
Well, at least you got to see a joystick
on
the Starfleet vessel.
The joystick was like from Battle Simulator game I had in my Atari 2600 some years ago. I was just like, oh my God, this is so plastic.
It was a manual steering column, and you will respect it, sir.
From the days of Flight Simulator.
Yeah, no,
it's terrible.
They couldn't have even you have a very well-funded, highly creative production design team, and you just took like a 1980s controller and stuck it on top of a column. Really? It should have been like a glowing ball or something. You know what I mean?
And that was the only real battle scene, wasn't it?
Yeah, more or less.
Was that?
But the running around on the planet where Worf has the purple laser firing bazooka, and remember that, like the ground fight that they have.
That's just an odd image to.
Yeah, he didn't have a regular phaser gun, type 1, type 2. No, he had a shoulder bazooka. It was pretty stupid. I'm not going to try and defend it.
Yeah, see, these are the things I remember when I think of Insurrection. So,
but you did get to see Picard do a bossa nova dance in that movie. That was pretty cool. Like when everyone was feeling young and Geordi's eyes reverted because of the field that was around the planet. Picard's in his quarters and he breaks out into a little dance move, and it's like, this is great.
we got to hear Data's thing.
Yep.
Blue skies, holy mackerel.
It's just when you compare it.
That was Insurrection, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, just when you compare it to the dourness of Nemesis.
No, that was when he was doing the wedding scene. That was Nemesis.
Oh, okay.
because he was doing the
Yeah,
toast and
'cause-
taking
yeah,
forever.
Nemesis.
And
You're
Picard told him to shut up. And he goes, I've been waiting for years to do that.
And you somehow, I mean, whatever canon is supposed to mean, Wesley's back. I guess the Traveler fucked off on him. All right then, like it.
You know, he wasn't paid for that, right?
I did not know that. Is that true?
He requested to be in the movie, and they said, "Well, if you want to be in the movie, we're not paying you." And he says, "I want to be in the movie anyway."
Wild. For certain actors, that's a totally wise move, depending on your situation. You know what I mean? Like how many days of filming is it? 2. Fine, I'll be there. You know what I mean? Just to keep yourself relevant and
Get on to do Wednesday.
Yeah, fuck it. Why not? Major Hollywood movie, sure.
Get to see all my friends again.
Yeah,
Spend 20 minutes in the makeup chair. Who cares?
I can still go to the catering table, right? Cool, free lunch. Nice. You know, like it.
Craft services. Gotta have craft services.
I mean,
We're way off.
Yeah,
we are way off.
You get 4 nerds together, it happens.
It does happen. That's what's great about these streams. So what do you guys think about the sick bay scene where they have Chakotay, where the last 30 seconds of Chakotay's 40s simulation persona, where they've got the holographic explosives under the floor that somehow still blow up the fucking console.
I don't remember that at all.
You doing?
They obviously they were okay. So under what floor were the explosives?
So
under the sick bay floor?
They put explosive under the sick bay floor the sick bay medical console, because that's where the interfaces were tied through. And Doc had been discovered trying to disable them.
Okay.
So he had to quickly deactivate. So Janeway and Chakotay had to go, and like that's why she wanted to go alone, but he wanted to come with her, right? That was that whole discussion. That's why they had to leave, because she had to get to sickbay.
Okay.
And they put holographic explosives under the deck plating, but they still somehow blew up a non-holographic medical console
because the safety things were off.
Oh, right, that's right. They were off.
But I was just thinking that through in my head. So, like, Skep, let's think about this for a second. We've seen multiple times, like when the Ship in a Bottle, where Picard throws the book out of the holodeck and it phases away. Right. And also the lengthier time it happens when the Peter Lorre ripoff and the Sydney Greenstreet ripoff from the first season episode.
The Big Goodbye.
The Big Goodbye. When they walk out.
I was trying to think of it. Yep.
When they disappear like swirly over time, like, but whatever, they still disappear.
I'm Cyrus Redblock.
Cyrus Redblock, that's his name. It's like, you know, the Bogart movies. It's clearly supposed to be Sydney Greenstreet, Casper Gutman from Maltese Falcon. But in any case, so if the safeties are turned off, it will cause you damage because the force fields and light will still blow holes in your body. A holographic bullet will still pass through you if it's going fast enough. If the safeties are turned off, cool. But the projectors didn't pass through into. Oh no, they would have, because the sick bay's full of fucking projectors because the doctor's there.
Oh yeah. The repeaters are. Yeah, he's sustained by them, right?
Yeah, no. So as all, there you go. Because I was about to argue incorrectly but there were no projectors in sickbay, so therefore the damage would not have gone through there, but there are, so it would have. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And they had also forced Harry to put emitters in quite a few of the corridors on that deck. Yeah,
he's like, you're forcing me to compromise major ship systems to put all these holo projectors in, and the lead Herodian's like, yeah, and
well, there won't be a ship for your holodeck anymore if you keep this up. You fucking retard.
what ends up being funny is why in the later episode, Flesh and Blood, which I think is an outstanding two-parter.
I do too. I can't wait to talk about that one.
It's great. It's got a Messiah complex guy. It's got it all. Like, it's just, the doctor becomes a convert and then starts questioning it. The whole thing. I love it. They just had the what would you call it? Like space station. It's nothing but a large holodeck going. Like, why wasn't that the Herodians' idea as opposed to converting Voyager? Because it already had holodecks, and let's just start.
Maybe the lead Herodian didn't have that thought ahead.
Or maybe he didn't understand it completely.
Maybe. Because they killed off the other Herodian guy, shot him, right? Because he thought, screw this, I want to stay with the hunt.
Right.
But somehow Janeway convinced him to take the technology anyway.
That you know what? You're absolutely right, because that's how that's how they got the technology that they used in Flesh and Blood, was because they had given right.
So maybe somewhere like that we don't see, either he came up with the idea of making it a space station, or like somebody on Voyager gave him the idea to make it a place, like a stationary place where people could come to hunt.
It was
just spitballing.
Yeah. I don't know. Like the thing that, and Hammer and I have talked about this a number of times, the thing that new Star Trek like Discovery is missing is it doesn't challenge the audience in the way that good science fiction, especially good Trek, should. It raises questions, and when it answers them in universe, not current year. Right? Like, I love bringing up the two people from the planet of Charon, the half black, half white people from TOS.
Yeah.
Neither of them is presented as the hero. It's so great that the eternally righteous victim, the eternal we will have order, you're the oppressor. No, you're just a destroyer who wants to tear down everything that's been built. Both their arguments are made excellently, and you're left with it as the viewer. Do you know what I mean? They don't, and people reference that episode, and they totally miss the point, in my opinion, because they just go, oh, well, that was the 1960s where you couldn't talk about race relations and they were able to do it through science fiction. And I'm like, that's like a fifth grader's reading of it. Watch that episode over again. They go a lot further than just black and white race relations.
They really do.
They go deep, because neither of them are in the right and neither of them's in the wrong. Like, you know what I mean? It's
the gray area of morality. That is considerably, more in depth.
Right. And so the idea of taking these Herodian, who are these hunters, and it's like, our culture's falling apart, but we can do this thing. Can we compartmentalize it? People like to argue that that's what the Romans were doing with the Colosseum. They were taking the violence of the outside world and containing it. We can have this control over this and still get our jollies out, as it were. There's lots of questions, lots of ideas, lots of depth there. Where if you watch Discovery now, they miss that point of raising challenging questions, and they answer them in current year. Look, we passed the Bechdel test. Look, we're multiracial because we're multiracial, because we are. And then flashy J.J. Abrams style explosion scenes where you can't tell what's going on because the action's moving too fast.
They don't even let you come up with an idea about the plot and then be wrong about it. They're just like, here you go.
Very simple-minded stuff.
Yeah. It's spoon-fed.
We're not going to, nobody, not just we, nobody is going to be sitting around and having multiple long discussions about Discovery, because there's just nothing, there's no meat there.
No.
There's nothing to chew on, talk about. What if Picard was in the year from hell? What would he do? You want to talk about these things and play it around, and this is why there's a whole nerddom around it.
Right.
And CBS Paramount, I don't know, they seem to have missed that whole fucking point.
It is interesting to put the captains into different situations from the different series. Like, it's very interesting. Like, to think about, how would Picard handle being an emissary, the emissary? Like,
right.
Yeah.
He didn't like being the Picard too much.
That's a good point. As a thought experiment, that could be a fun half-hour discussion right there. How would he have dealt with being the emissary? Yeah.
I just want to give an idea out there that I'm so fascinated by the holodeck and the possibilities for the holodeck. Why couldn't you have a universe in a holodeck? If you had enough power, say if you could harness the power of a star, why could you not have a galaxy?
What if there was a holodeck planet? Just a planet with nothing but holodeck.
Yeah, could you make a holodeck spaceship, for example?
The extent of the tech in Trek has always been, in my opinion, and I'm not saying this is a criticism, limited on purpose by the writers, because it will lose.
It becomes impossible to make certain things logical if it's unlimited. If too many things are unlimited,
right?
You have too many of the situations. Why didn't the Eagles just fly the rings to Mordor type thing?
Right, exactly. It would be
there is a holodeck spaceship already. The ship that was on the surface of Insurrection.
There was a holodeck spaceship. But they always do it in a very constrained, limited fashion. Like it's the first time anybody ever thought to do this. You know what I mean? It's like, oh my God, they've done a holographic ship. And like the first time anybody ever thought to put a microtransporter on the end of a projectile rifle and be able to fire with non-direct line of sight. That's fucking brilliant and a great piece of addition. But people would have thought of that literally centuries ago if you could actually do that. They always constrain it in that way. Or otherwise, just like you said, why didn't they just fly to Mordor? You know what I mean? Everything unravels if the writers don't constrain it. So I absolutely understand why they do. Because you could have that, and in Flesh and Blood, sorry to jump ahead, they try and the Messiah guy is, we're going to build a land of light for us. And it's like, yeah, but that planet is uninhabitable. He's like, you're thinking like an organic. We don't need to, you know what I mean? And it would be for us to our needs and so on. That excites the imagination. What would it look like? Well, the truth is, if you actually had holographic technology, that would already exist. Do you know what I mean? Like, you would already have a holographic city. Why would you ever construct anything anymore? Why would you build physical buildings? You would just build really reliable holographic projectors.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
You got exactly where I was trying to go with that. Yeah, exactly.
Someone in chat says you can. They did that in TNG with Moriarty, but that was a tiny, tiny, tiny cube.
Yeah, to fool him into he was on a forever adventure. And again, like it's the first time anybody ever thought to do that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Right. Like remember
and Barclay had it on his desk, computer and program.
Of course, Barclay says it, the fucking neurotic guy, right? He's like, wait a minute, holy shit. And it was just, Picard was just kidding. I don't know, maybe this is all just a simulation. We're sitting on someone's desktop, and it freaks Barclay out. Everybody else just laughs.
Poor Barclay.
Wrong.
Poor Barclay. Poor Reg.
I like that they incorporated him into Voyager.
I did too.
As like the honorary member of the crew from a distance because he was the head of Pathfinder. I really dug that they did that. It worked well. Yeah.
And they kept his character just as crazy.
Let me slip into your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's an example we're talking about, Skep. Remember when Geordi's talking to Barclay? And he says, but recreating people you already know on the holodeck, that's kind of weird. Oh, shut up, Geordi. Everyone would have been doing that from day one. You'd be
absolutely,
you'd be fucking the women you want to fuck. You'd be beating the hell out of the people that pissed you off. Like, come on.
Yeah. You get in some really sick, sick ideas there. You know.
It's like, but again, it has to be constrained or everything blows apart. You know what I mean?
Right. Suddenly there's too much possibility and then there's no reason for not taking advantage of those possibilities and the story evaporates.
Yeah.
So there you go.
It's like, what remember when Picard said, I forget what the context of it was. And I think it was Picard where no, it was Janeway. That's why we built starships and not just probes, because we want to see it. And I'm like, That's a shitty answer. Why haven't you just built probes again? Like,
that's almost something out of a 1960s zeitgeist, if you want to think about it. The feeling was that we had to put men on the moon. We landed Surveyor, landed several probes on the moon. We tested the gravel and all that stuff. And that was not enough. The important thing was that we could put men on the moon. We could project ourselves into the stars. And that's an urge that I think that is almost a basic human urge. I really do believe that. I believe the stars are calling us.
We're eventually going to go to Mars.
Mars sucks.
I have oddly strong feelings on this that I can't justify, but I am sick of hearing about fucking Mars. Luna all the way.
My modem died.
It's the moon rocks.
I'm back.
Welcome back.
My modem fucking died.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, there's a modem died. Modem just died. Okay, I wasn't looking at that.
Okay.
I mean, I loved the episode of DS9 Valiant, where that was a great episode overall. But when Jake Sisko is talking to the girl who's a lunar schooner, and she was talking what it was like to grow up in Tycho City and so forth.
Yes, exactly.
And I'm like, and like everybody says it's so desolate, but it's not like that at all. Just great little tiny pieces of lore, but I found them totally believable and they excited the imagination. It's like when you see the sun come up like on the moon, and it's like, yeah, you know what, Luna all the way. I'm tired of hearing about Mars. Let's colonize the moon.
Here's the moon is probably in some ways safer. It's closer to Earth, and the other thing is that the atmosphere on Mars is given to some really nasty dust storms, and the dust on Mars is like tiny particles of ground glass.
Yeah,
and it sticks to everything. That's the one thing we really have found out with our rover, that it's even worse than
Pinkalo's being weird.
Oh, okay. Anyway, I was just saying that. So, it's the moon is much more doable. And as it's also smaller than Mars, and so it is a lower cost launch place for us to store stuff, assemble stuff, and head out. So Mars is kind of, I think it's a bit of a mousetrap. I really do. And I think the people who are volunteering for Elon Musk's thing to spend the rest of their lives on Mars are going to spend a very brief time on Mars. And that will be the rest of their lives, because they'll basically go, and everything that they do, every activity that they do, will have a plan A and a plan B. And some things will not maybe have a plan B, and something will happen where there's no plan C. People will start to die, and you'll start to lose functionality within the group of people, and that will be the end of the colony. And then you'll also have people suiciding, people with terrible remorse about going there. Yeah. So, yeah, I think Mars is a mousetrap. I really do.
What do you think about cloud cities on Venus? Feasible?
Cloud cities, like the cloud minders cloud cities?
Yeah. Why do they have to be on Venus? Why would we put them on Venus?
I've heard some really
sulfuric acid.
I've heard some really stupid theories on it's better to colonize Venus instead of Mars because it's closer.
Let's just get some facts out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't agree with them.
Really quick though. Like if we're cloud cities on Venus, if Droxina from the Cloud Minders is there, I'm all for it. Hammer knows.
Absolutely. I've done a lot of research on Venus and colonization, so I'm interested to hear what your facts are.
It's really hot. It's really hot. On the surface. On the surface, it's really hot. The atmosphere has a ton of sulfur in it. and it has some water vapor in it. When you have water vapor and you have free sulfur, you get H2SO4. You get hydrogen sulfate, which is called sulfuric acid. Okay, and so that's just kind of a negative. On the surface, there are rains of molten metal. It's so hot that molten metal falls from the sky. So
that's not the worst of it.
If you're hold on, hold on. You with me? You hanging? All right. So if you're going to orbit Venus, why? It's a long way away. Why not orbit the moon? If you want to orbit something other than Earth, orbit the moon. There's less gravitational cost to boost away from the moon. Escape velocity is far lower than Venus, which is 80% the size of Earth.
Yeah.
And why go to a place that is just, wants to pull you down almost as hard as Earth does into the boiling metal and sulfuric acid? Why do you want to go there? I don't understand. Okay.
Well, you didn't mention the worst thing. Pressure.
Okay. Yes.
The worst part of
the
Venus
pressure is 50,000 times the atmosphere of Earth. That's a great point. But that's why the Soviet probes last 17 minutes before they're done.
But the way the cloud structure is structured is you could basically put a blimp in orbit, and the only thing you would need to do walking outside that blimp, besides not fall, is to wear a gas mask.
But what about the light?
All you got to do. There's nothing in the cloud layer where you would be to survive that is anything worse than what Earth does.
That we know
in that section of the layer. Well, according to all the scientists, I mean, we have sent probes.
All the ones who've been there. That's good. Yeah.
Well, they are planning. I don't know if it's been launched but I had heard that NASA was planning on sending a balloon to Venus to traverse instead of a probe. Because they were going to send a balloon to orbit, like in the clouds, and just take pictures.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's been launched or if it's.
I can see that as an unmanned thing is a low cost way to map it. I think something like that might make some sense to do a radar map of it, because you really can't see through the clouds and
everything has its problems. The moon has nothing. I said everything has its problems. Yeah. There's no Earth 2 out there. The moon has no real gravity, so you're going to have bone loss and muscle loss just like you do in orbit right now with Earth.
You can have
you can't keep people there permanently.
You can have a centrifugally accelerating crew cabin.
Yeah, but the size has to be a certain size for that to work. If it's too small, then there's problems with being able to stand up. If it's too big, the structure will tear itself apart. And the size that you would need would not fit on the moon. It only works in space. So that's a no-go.
Is there some math on that? I'd be interested in how big or how small.
Point you to a video that lays the whole thing out.
Yeah, I'd be interested in that, actually.
What you have to do is you have to get a big enough structure far enough away from the moon. I do agree that
basically in space.
That are some problems.
So the moon has nothing. Mars' surface is toxic. You can't plant anything in it. And Venus will crush you. There's nothing out there. There's no Earth 2. The only thing that might be close is Titan. That's about the only thing. Titan's an ice moon of Saturn. Saturn?
Yeah, I'm very familiar
that has water underneath. They think, pretty sure that there's water under the surface, and you could use that water to create oxygen, to create fuel for your rockets. So with oxygen, you can you have the option for plants. You're protected by the radiation belt of Saturn. There's so many things that make Titan compared to everything else, which is generally a no.
I didn't know Titan had. Well, I thought it was just all liquid.
Titan has a very salty ocean. July 2nd, 2014, scientists analyzing data from NASA's Cassini mission have firm evidence of an ocean inside Saturn's largest moon, Titan, which might be as salty as Earth's Dead Sea, and it is a water ocean with a ton of salt in it.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, but the Thanos is there, so you know. I'm trying to bring it back to fiction. I don't know. I just
so if we haven't gotten far enough off the subject of Voyager, if we were going to go anywhere in the solar system that actually had an option of actually supporting life long term, I think Titan is only the real possibility, especially because it's protected.
It's got the right atmospheric pressure.
It's protected by the huge magnetic field on Saturn, which means that you don't deal with much radiation, if any.
Yeah.
I'm still Luna all the way. Fuck it. And we need to stop calling it the moon. We need to call it Luna.
Can't do it with Jupiter's moon because Jupiter generates its own radiation, and that's a problem. Jupiter's moons are uninhabitable for that reason. Jupiter actually generates it. It has a reverse sine albedo because it actually seems to reflect. In other words, it generates more radiation than it receives.
Yeah.
You want to see something? You want to listen to something really cool? You search on YouTube, "Sounds of the Planets." NASA.
Okay, I heard that before.
Converted some of the stuff from the radio telescopes, from the audio, and put it into like audio frequencies, and it's really cool. The Earth sounds like a freaking giant whale.
I did hear something. Yes.
What video did I promise you, Polly? I've lost the train of thought already. What video did I promise you?
The video on how big a circular cylindrical object would need to be.
Right.
I was just curious about the size. I'd be interested to see how big it would need to be. That's because like Babylon 5, that's how they do it. But like, I don't know if they incorporate some actual math and it's too big for the surface of the moon. I've never stopped to think about that. It would need to be of a particular size. So I'm curious about the math involved and how big it would need to be.
Dyson sphere.
Blind, I'm curious about something. I have the feeling we've talked about this before, but I'm not sure. The various videos on YouTube that are available for sounds of the bridge, sounds of the engine room on the various starships, the sounds of idling engines of the various ships. Did you ever listen to any of those?
Actually, I haven't. I should.
It's awesome, actually.
It really is. It really is.
I like TNG idling. That's my favorite.
And it's like, of course, I'm such a big fan of the Defiant. DS9 Defiant. It's like, of course that engine sounds the best because I'm like totally biased, right? And I don't like the Enterprise engine room because it's whoomp, whoomp, like, and that's not comforting to me. And it's like, you know, and there's 12-hour loops of it, Blind.
12-hour loops. I saw that.
As an Enterprise D, you don't like the Enterprise D's engine room?
Yes, because it's got that whoomp, whoomp noise, and it's not like a steady. You know,
see, I like that. I like it. It's like a heartbeat.
Everyone has their own taste, right? There's lots of us Trek nerds that like will fall asleep to it, and it's like I've thought about like going into Sony Vegas and like taking this 8-hour video sound clip and then this one and create quarters noises. So it would be a muffled idling engine plus walking feet at a distance plus whatever. So this would be the sound if you're sleeping on a starship's.
That would be so cool.
That I've wanted to do that, and I should.
Distant intercom traffic.
Yeah, you would hear and you know the doorbell noise, that doo-doo-doo-doo, like that noise. You would hear a muffled sound of it as people were pressing other people's doorbells in the hall.
Right.
You know what I mean? And yeah. And then, of course, you find a clip of Majel Barrett being the voice of the computer, and that would be your alarm to wake up. That would happen like if I start the clip and it's like 8 hours and I'm going to sleep. Majel Barrett go, "It is now 0800," you know, or whatever. You know, I'm like,
good morning. It is 0800 hours.
Program complete. Enter when ready.
Right. Yeah.
Majel Barrett would be so much better than Amazon's, Alexa. Yeah, Alexa. I changed mine to Amazon. I have one, and because I don't like Alexa, and if they had Majel Barrett, I mean, they would double their sales. I think.
Like, unfortunately, of course, she's passed away,
right?
But like, it's like they missed the ultimate opportunity to have like Madrigal Barrett come in and do the voice for a whole series of themes for PCs or Macs or whatever. Like, why didn't anyone think of this?
Yep.
You wouldn't even need to pay CBS Paramount because it's not really Trek, although it obviously is, if you know what I mean.
Mine would be very Trek. Do you know what mine would be to wake up in the morning? Regeneration cycle complete.
right, yeah.
Generation cycle.
There is an LCARS theme for Windows.
Huh.
I've tried LCARS themes, and we talked about this before. I remember Hammer for Android, and I could never get any of them to work. The ROMs didn't work very well, and I've always wanted like a seriously functional LCARS theme. I should try that again. I should see what else is out there now.
I post a link in a direct DM link for you in Discord for that artificial gravity and science fiction thing.
Sweet, thank you.
Well, guys, it's past 11:30, and I don't know who's going to Minions
now. So,
oh yeah, it is Minions start time, right?
Yeah, I don't know if any of you are going to Minions tonight, but we should wrap it up and not cut into their stream. I want to thank chat for coming and listening to us, and thank you three for coming out. I love this episode, and I'm glad all of us got to be here to talk about it. Yeah. Are we all down for Equinox next week?
Oh, Equinox is next? Fuck yes. Absolutely. I love Equinox. Great episode. So yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah, I like Equinox too.
I'll try and find it.
It's 20 episodes, 25 and 26 of season 5.
Let me know if you need to.
No, it's not an Equinox next. It's Dark Frontier next.
Oh.
Yeah, I know.
I'm going to watch Equinox anyway because Polly reacted so hard. Look at it. I'm watching it.
I know. It's Dark Frontier and then it's Equinox. I'm sorry.
Okay, Dark Frontier. I'll watch them both.
I'll still be here. It's fine.
All right. So join us next Saturday at 10 p.m. when we talk about Dark Frontier, and I will tell you why I both love and hate that episode.
All right.
And I hope everyone enjoyed the show. We will be sure to come by tomorrow night for the Blind and the Special. Not too sure what Pinkalo and I are doing yet, but it's always a good time. So thanks for coming by. Go over and check out Minions of the Zoo if you guys aren't doing anything after this. It's always fun over there. Thanks for coming out, guys, and we'll see you next week.
Bonsoir,
bye, everybody.
Have a good night, everyone.